In this video, I will be showing you how to install and set up Marlin 2.1.2 for this Core XY Ender 3 conversion. Awesome. First thing we have to talk about is the motherboard. We need an 32-bit one because the original 8-bit motherboard is not compatible with Marlin 2.1.2. So, for example, we would need something like that. An SKR Mini E3 V2, really popular motherboard for the Ender 3. It's a drop-in replacement and has everything we need. A dual Z output for the steppers, a Z probe port. So this is what I will be using. The V3 will also be compatible, but you would need to make some changes in the firmware later. Okay, so we have the right motherboard, have all wired up correctly. Now we need to talk about the setup. In the conversion we have an X min Endstop and an Y max Endstop. We're doing this because we want to home in the left back, like any other Core XY, at around 0 to 60, not 00, that we have the build plate free. Rather, that we have free access to the build plate when we finished printing and rehomed the machine. Okay, so you have your Y Endstop. There's somewhere at the back there. If you have looked at the pictures, I like to use double-sided tape, but you can mount it any other way. But I can say that double-sided tape is holding up well enough. Okay, now that we have configured the frame like it should be, we can go onto the firmware part. If you have never set up Marlin with Visual Studio Code and auto-build Marlin, you should definitely watch this video from Teaching Tech. He describes perfectly, better than I could ever, how to install and configure Visual Studio Code and the plugin you need to install and compile Marlin for our Ender XY. Okay, if you installed Visual Studio with the right plugin, your Visual Studio should look something like that. Auto-build Marlin tab should be open, and you go on File, Open Folder, find the zip you downloaded from the Hackaday page, right here, unzip it, and like I said, open it with Visual Studio Code. You click on the folder, click on Add Folder, and the folder should show up right here in the Explorer. If you have an SKR Mini E3 V2, everything is set up correctly for you, and you should just be able to go on Auto-build Marlin, select the right environment, click on Build, and Visual Studio will automatically open the folder where your firmware.bin is stored. You just throw it onto any old SD card, plug it into your printer, power it up, and it will automatically install the firmware. If, however, you have a different board, use a different 32-bit board, you would want to go into the platform.ini file, change the default environment, and into the configuration.h file, and search for motherboard and change your motherboard to the right one you have. If, however, this is not working for you, I advise you go to marlin.com, find an example code or example Marlin for your specific board, and search for // This shows you every change I made to the code. You could just copy the things I changed, except, yeah, like we just saw, specific pinouts for your board. Okay, if you if you did this, then your auto-built Marlin should show a different board, a different environment. Then you could um, build it for your environment. Do the same, and get the firmware bin compiled correctly. Put it on an SD card. Put it into your printer, and everything should update very easily. If you want to skim through the code yourself, you can open the configuration files and press Ctrl F and search for /L. This will show you every change I've made, like the BL Touch high speed mode. Yeah, things you might want to disable if you use a BL Touch clone that is not that accurate, or input shaping. What other things are here? Baby stepping, really important for homing, or linear advance if you have flow problems when you're printing really quickly. Okay. So let's get to problems you might encounter when you are setting up your Core XY Ender conversion. If your Z-axis steppers are going in the wrong direction, you really only have one option when you are using the SKR Mini, because the Z-axis outputs are bridged or mirrored. Yeah, you cannot configure them individually. So you would have to change the cables around in the plug itself. Other things, if you have problems with the carriage up here, your steppers are not configured correctly. Either you have them swapped around. In that case, you could just swap the plugs on the motherboards or the steppers, or one is turning in the wrong direction. In that case, you could go into the firmware and invert the motor direction, or do the same that you would have done on the Z-axis stepper. Works as well. Okay, if you have any other problems, feel free to post them under this video or on our Hackaday page. One thing I also want to point out is the colors you would find in the CAD of the Core XY conversion on the Hackaday page. If you download this, the colors will look something like that. The black beams are from the original Ender 3 V1. The only thing that changes for the V2 is this bottom beam. That should be a 2x2, I think, but this will not affect the whole frame. The light green beams are from the original Ender XY conversion, if you look at this picture exactly. In the first version, without the linear rails, the carriage has these roller blocks. And in that case, you could use the original Ender 3 X carriage profile, but in the Core XY, the linear rail version, this beam has to be longer. Yeah, the beam Tengai uses in his roller version would end right there, but we need another like 3 to 4 centimeters. So this dark green color is for the linear rail version. Same thing with the color of the printed parts. The yellow is for the linear rail version, and the orange is for the roller version for the conversion. Okay guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope your conversion is going great. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the Hackaday page or this YouTube video. We will come back to them. Thank you guys, have a great time. Bye bye.